Hi, and welcome back to Focal Point on AFR Talk. Coming to you live, this is Bryan Fischer. The program is Focal Point. The network is the American Family Radio Talk Network. Coming to you live from Des Moines, Iowa, broadcasting from the Rediscover God in America Conference. Honored and pleased to have with me right here live in our remote studio Representative Michele Bachmann, representing the 5th District or 6th?
6th District.
The
Very
6th
good.
District. I got districts confused with kids. We have 5 kids and represent the 6th District in Minnesota. So welcome, Congressman Bachmann. Great to have you with us.
It's an honor to be on the show with you today.
And you do have 5 children.
We do.
And you fostered 23 children.
Yes,
and you were telling me just before we went on air about a charter school experiment that you all got involved in. Tell us about
That's right.
that.
My husband and I have been married about 33 years, and we have broken hearts for at-risk kids. And so we started a charter school specifically for at-risk kids together with a few other parents. The first K-12 charter school in the country. It's still going strong. 19 years later, it's helped a lot of kids. And we are really grateful that we were able to foster those 23 kids in our home. It was a blessing, really a blessing.
You know, Representative, it's striking to me that Republicans are always tagged as the one that are lacking in compassion, and they're hard-hearted and they're intolerant. And we just look at your family, 5 children, giving life to them, raising them, nurturing them, giving a place of stability and security to 23 foster children, and then making an effort to give at-risk kids a chance at a decent education. I mean, that sounds like compassion in action to me.
Well, and we aren't the only ones. There's a lot of people out doing it, and for many people who do foster care, it's because of their faith. Their faith moves them to do that. It's because of the love that we have received from Jesus Christ. We then want to pour that love out on behalf of other people that we see as well. So there are a lot of people doing it, and I encourage them and thank them for reaching out to people in need.
Shifting gears just a little bit, CNN had a story this morning, claiming an exclusive story, that you are going to form an exploratory committee to look at the possibility of running in 2012. Can you confirm for us here that you are indeed going to form an exploratory committee?
Well, we are looking at that possibility. We have gotten a lot of encouragement from people here in Iowa as well. I'm in Iowa right now, as well as in South Carolina, New Hampshire, and Florida. And so if we are going to make a decision, we will be making a decision by early this summer, because I think it's very important that a candidate participate in the Iowa straw poll. And so if we do make that decision, in all likelihood, that's when we'll be making our announcement.
Now, we look at what's going on in Libya. If you throw your hat into the ring, you would be running for the position of Commander-in-Chief. Talk to us, as a possible Commander-in-Chief, your assessment of President Obama's actions in Libya. You know, the concerns that a lot of conservatives have, I count myself among them. It seems to me we have no mission there, and that seems to be the occupation of the Republicans. What's our goal there? But I have a more fundamental problem, that he took this action without getting authorization from Congress, as the Constitution specifies. Your reaction?
Well, that's right, and it's ironic that President Obama, when he was running for presidency of the United States, was taking President Bush to task for doing that in Iraq. Now, President Bush subsequently went to Congress and asked for authorization, but he went there first without asking for authorization. So President Obama essentially has done the same thing. We were in Washington, D.C. last week. It isn't like Libya just came out of nowhere. We've known that there's been difficulty. The president could have consulted with Congress. He met with a very small bipartisan group on Friday, but he could have sought Congress's approval. He chose not to. And you're right, there has been a real incoherence on his policy. It appears that the Obama doctrine is use the United States military to intervene in a country if there are humanitarian reasons. This needs to be debated by the American people. The president, I think it's rash for the president unilaterally to commit U.S. troops and to commit U.S. treasure, which is in the form of our military hardware and all the attendant accessories that go with our military. While we are now engaged, both in Iraq and in Afghanistan, to engage in a third jurisdiction is highly unusual, and it stretches our resources even thinner than they are now. I have been very reluctant to see the United States go into Libya. For one thing, we haven't identified yet who the opposition even is to Gaddafi. We don't know if this is led by Hamas, Hezbollah, or possibly Al-Qaeda of North Africa. Are we really better off? Are United States better interests? Are our interests better off if, let's say, Al-Qaeda of North Africa now runs Libya? The problem in the Middle East region is the fact that we are too dependent on them for our energy in the United States. We need to develop American energy resources now, because the good news is we've got them. 25% of all of the coal in the world resides in the United States. We have more oil in 3 states in America than all of Saudi Arabia. We have untold trillions of cubic square feet of natural gas, as well as here in Iowa. We have biofuels. We have all of the above energy resources that we could access. That would allow us to be less dependent on foreign sources for our energy, and it would create high-paying jobs here in America, which we need. That's what we should do.
So, Congressman, talking here with Congressman Michele Bachmann from the state of Minnesota, possible presidential candidate in 2012. So it makes it sound like one of your objectives, one of your planks as President of the United States would be to do something about our energy policy, encourage domestic drilling, let's get access to domestic resources that we have.
Without a doubt. And again, I have not made that decision to become, to throw my hat in the ring. My husband and I are still in the process of praying about that decision. It will be a momentous decision. It can't be rash. It has to be prudent and well thought out. But that is a strong concern of mine. I am so thrilled that God has given us the resources in the United States to use and develop. Why not use them responsibly for the good of our people? And I would encourage a strong, all of the above, use American energy policy.
Now, Vice President Joe Biden said in 2007 that if President Bush had gone into Iran or Iraq, whatever he's talking about, without congressional authorization, that was an impeachable offense. He would have led the impeachment proceedings. Do you think, put you on the hot seat here, do you think what President Obama did in bombing Libya without authorization from Congress was an impeachable offense?
Well, that is something, as you said, was brought up by the Vice President and by one of my current colleagues, Dennis Kucinich. I think that is an area of debate. I don't know that I necessarily agree with that assessment. I do know that the Constitution has given that power to the United States Congress. It is up to the Congress to make a decision, but we've also had intervening laws passed since that time, in particular the War Powers Act. So there are deviations since the Constitution was first written, but I think the more important issue right now is the fact that this is a situation that I think in all likelihood could hurt American interests in the long term, and that is not good for our nation.
2 last questions. Got about a minute and a half left. Will you vote for another temporary continuing resolution that does not defund Planned Parenthood and defund abortions in D.C.? Will you vote for another temporary CR?
No, I will not. I had voted no on the last 2 continuing resolutions. I think it's imperative that we make a statement that we have a fight with President Obama, not just for the sake of fighting, but we were sent to Washington, D.C. to listen to our people that we represent and do what they've asked us to do. Yesterday was the 1-year anniversary of the creation of Obamacare. This is destroying our country. As a person, my husband and I own 2 clinics. We live with the nightmare of Obamacare every day. As you know, Obamacare contains taxpayer-funded abortions. We have to get rid of Obamacare if we truly want to get rid of taxpayer-funded abortions. And I was part of leading the charge in the House of Representatives to get other members to vote no on the continuing resolution unless it contained that provision to defund Obamacare.
15 seconds. Will you vote to raise the debt ceiling?
No.
Good. Succinct and to the point. I like that in a potential resident of the Oval Office. Our guest has been Representative Michele Bachmann, possible presidential candidate in 2012. Congressman, thank you so much for dropping by to take time to be with us, and God's best to you as you and your husband decide what your future is going to look like. Thank you for being with us.
I appreciate your prayers and the prayers of your listeners. Thank you.